Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The CDC is asked about a vaccine mandate for domestic air travel. The mandate's not on the table, at least not for now, and the health agency shortens the quarantine time for people with asymptomatic infections. But why? A woman is facing a federal charge for punching and spitting at an unmasked man. The incident occurred on a Delta flight from Tampa, Florida to Atlanta, Georgia. Legendary football announcer John Madden passed away at age 85. He's remembered for his award-winning voice, his coaching career, and his popular football video game. Earlier this week, Dr. Fauci says it's reasonable to consider a vaccine mandate for domestic air travel. The CDC director, however, has now confirmed that the agency is not considering the mandate at this time. On Tuesday, CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky confirmed that the agency is not considering the vaccine mandate for domestic flights. Walensky told this to NPR when asked about the issue. She said people in the hospital with COVID right now are 17 times more likely to be unvaccinated than vaccinated, and in light of this, the agency is looking for ways to get more people vaccinated. What's more, the CDC director commented on the agency's recommendation to cut quarantine time in half for people who are asymptomatic. That is, 5 days instead of 10, followed by 5 days of masking. In a different interview, Walensky said the update was based in part on what they thought people would be able to tolerate.
Our guidance was conservative before. It has said 10 days of isolation, but in the context of the fact that we were going to have so many more cases, many of those would be asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. People would feel well enough to be at work. They would not necessarily tolerate being home, and that they may not comply with being home.
White House COVID advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci associated the update to what he called an unprecedented wave of COVID infections, which is currently taking place and expected to last for weeks.
That there is the danger that there will be so many people who are being isolated, who are asymptomatic for the full 10 days, that you could have a major negative impact on our ability to keep society running.
And turning to the travel industry, the CDC is now investigating 22 more cruise ships with COVID outbreaks. These investigations were launched within a day, bringing the total of cruise ships under investigation to 86 on Tuesday. Most of these ships belong to Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Disney, and Norwegian. The agency said cruising will always pose some risk of spreading COVID, but the CDC is working with these companies to make sure the risk of spread on board is low. Proof of COVID-19 vaccination is required to partake in many activities, such as going to restaurants, taking a cruise, and going to the movies. But based on the CDC's recent announcement, a vaccine pass won't be required to fly domestically, at least not for now. I wanted to get a doctor's perspective on this issue, so I spoke with pathologist and COVID expert Dr. Selena Nadelman. She outlined some of the economic and ethical issues surrounding the vaccine pass for domestic air travel, an idea Dr. Fauci has said is reasonable to consider.
Well, I think that what he said is salient in that we should be considering it, but I think it's actually hard to implement. And I think because of just the airline industry in general, it's been pretty hard hit with COVID in general. And, they want to keep domestic flights going and having people fly them. I think it would be very difficult to actually do. And I think it would be also pretty unfair to those people who possibly can't get the vaccine. There are people who cannot have the vaccine for other reasons other than just because they don't want it. And so to ban them from traveling just because they don't have a vaccine is a little bit extreme. But I do think that there is probably another way for us to feel safe.
Now, looking ahead, there's a lot of talk that January is going to be a very hard month, as infections are skyrocketing, hospitals are trying to keep up with the Omicron variant. What do Americans need to know coming into the new year?
Well, looking at the data from South Africa, it seems that the Omicron variant there hit a peak around 5 or 6 weeks after its first case. So I'm guessing, and this is just a guesstimate, just extrapolating from their data, and not, equating all of the different variables that we have, that we should hit a peak in 5 or 6 weeks, which would be probably around January 12th. Now, we have a much higher national vaccination rate, so perhaps our peak may be even sooner. But I'm hoping that it'll peak and then our cases will go down thereafter.
I wanted to get your perspective on this. So I saw a commercial near Christmas time where a kid said he doesn't want toys, he doesn't want presents, he wants a COVID vaccine. So do you think this is propaganda, or is this a reasonable way to get kids excited about the shot?
I don't know how appropriate it is for a child to say, I don't want a present, but I want a vaccine. I think maybe being excited, like not as scared to get the vaccine, or maybe pivoting it to like, oh, I know someone who got it and it's not as bad. That might be a better way to promote the vaccine amongst children. However, I think we should be showing people actually what happens to people who get COVID more than having children be used in commercials, or, so that, there might be people who might view it as propaganda.
Health officials in a Northern California county want up-to-date vaccination for all workers in certain high-risk settings. The local deadline is now set earlier than the rest of the states. We'll hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
On Tuesday morning, officials in Santa Clara County provided an update on requiring COVID booster shots in response to the Omicron virus variant.
Today, we're issuing a health order that puts in place some limited vaccination mandates and builds on recent actions by the state health officer.
The new local health order requires workers in high-risk settings to be up to date on their COVID-19 vaccination and booster shots by January 24th, rather than the state's deadline of February 1st. They identify high-risk settings as healthcare facilities, jails, shelters, and long-term care. Employees can apply for medical and religious exemptions, but the order restricts those employees from working in the higher-risk settings.
Our test positivity rate is also increasing. So far, our hospitalizations are relatively flat, but we are, of course, concerned about that.
The local order is a limited measure that's intended to focus on protecting vulnerable populations that these workers interact with, to protect the workers themselves and their co-workers.
Dr. Cody said they're not taking the final step of mandating vaccines for places like restaurants. She added that businesses have been responsive. The county health officer said that the county has a 52% booster eligibility rate. Now, California is the first state to surpass 5 million COVID cases. Despite an increase in the last few weeks, COVID deaths are trending downward. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
The Defense Department is encouraging all troops to get COVID-19 booster shots, but has not made them a requirement. However, initial vaccination is still a requirement to serve in the military. The department says those who received the Pfizer vaccine at least 6 months ago are eligible for the booster. Those who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are eligible for a booster after at least 2 months. Earlier this month, the Pentagon discussed requiring a booster shot, but a requirement has not yet been issued. A mandate was issued in August for all members to get the initial vaccination. Military reserve members were included. 96% of military personnel have complied with the order, but around 35,000 remain unvaccinated. A woman from California is now facing a federal assault charge. She allegedly punched and spat at another passenger on a Delta flight last week. Here are the details.
According to a complaint filed by an FBI officer, the Delta incident occurred on a flight from Tampa, Florida to Atlanta, Georgia. A now viral video shows the woman, identified as 51-year-old Patricia Cornwall, becoming upset that a beverage cart was blocking the aisle. The flight attendant asked her to find an open seat until the beverage service was completed. According to the complaint, Cornwall responded to the attendant, "Who am I, Rosa Parks?" A male passenger found it an inappropriate comment. He told Cornwall that she isn't black, this isn't Alabama, and this isn't a bus. The man also told Cornwall to sit down, Karen.
Sit down, Karen.
The court document describes a subsequent verbal altercation between the two. Cornwall can be seen in the video with her mask under her chin, telling the male passenger to wear his mask. And Cornwall was also told by the man and at least one other passenger to mask up. The man then cursed at Cornwall, after which she punched him in the head and spat in his face. Florida police noted Cornwall is a California resident. A New York Post report said last month Cornwall allegedly tried to fend off police during an arrest in Florida for driving under the influence. Following the Delta incident, a Georgia district court charged Cornwall with assault by striking, beating, or wounding. If found guilty, she could face up to 1 year in prison and a fine of up to $100,000.
More flights have been canceled worldwide today amid the Omicron variant surge. According to the tracking website FlightAware, more than 2,200 flights were canceled early morning. Over 700 of them were U.S. domestic flights or flights into or out of the U.S., and nearly 3,000 flights have been delayed. More than 12,000 flights have been canceled globally since Christmas Eve. Americans will have one less health care headache in 2022 thanks to the No Surprises Act. The new law bans most unexpected medical charges from out-of-network providers. It's scheduled to go into effect January 1st. Federal estimates predict it will apply to about 10 million surprise bills a year. Congress approved the law in late 2020. It protects patients when they receive treatment from doctors and hospitals that are not in their insurance networks and that they did not choose. Customers will be responsible only for their in-network cost sharing in these situations. The rule applies to nearly all private health plans offered by employers and also to individual policies brought through the Affordable Care Act. Medicare and Medicaid already prohibit billing patients for the balance of the charges. The No Surprises Act enjoyed wide bipartisan support in Congress and among insurers and providers, but it sparked criticism and lawsuits from the healthcare industry over who pays the rest of the bill. Former Democratic Nevada Senator Reid has died at the age of 82 after a 4-year battle with pancreatic cancer. Reid's wife of 62 years, Landra, released a statement Tuesday saying the former Senate Majority Leader died peacefully, surrounded by family. The Las Vegas airport was renamed Harry Reid International Airport earlier this month in his honor. The Democrat served Nevada in the U.S. Senate for decades, including a stint as Majority Leader during the Obama administration. He was one of the longest-serving leaders in the Senate of either party, with a total of 12 years. The family says funeral arrangements will be announced soon. Michigan's Secretary of State wants communities to continue accepting millions of private dollars to help pay for elections. She is a Democrat and is facing lawsuits for her support of the plan. In 2020, the Mark Zuckerberg-funded Center for Technology and Civic Life gave out $350 million in grants. This to help local election officials across America cope with complications from the CCP virus. According to conservative think tank Capital Research, Michigan received nearly $7.5 million in the grant program. It says the money flowed into predominantly Democrat cities. In September, 4 Michigan voters filed a lawsuit against Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. They allege she let local election officials accept private funds to boost voter turnout in Democrat strongholds. They say she enabled and encouraged a scheme favoring one group of voters over another. Benson's attorneys argue that the complaint should be dismissed because the plaintiffs lack standing to bring a suit and have failed to state a claim. Legendary football coach and broadcaster John Madden has died. The NFL says the 85-year-old passed away unexpectedly Tuesday. Here are some details on his life.
I have never worked a day in my life. I went from player to coach to a broadcaster, and I am the luckiest guy in the world.
Super Bowl winning coach, pioneering broadcaster, video game icon. A larger-than-life personality, John Madden was by any definition a true original. During his 30-year broadcasting career, Madden was widely considered the voice of the National Football League.
You have to attack them with the pass, and you have to attack them deep with the pass.
His passionate way of calling games with unique catchphrases,
Packers came out, they went boom, and they got 10 points.
And a love for using a telestrator helped explain the game to hardcore and casual fans across America. He called NFL games for all 4 major networks, announcing 11 Super Bowls and earning 16 sports Emmys during his time in the broadcast booth. Madden's NFL playing career was short-lived. He was drafted in 1958 by the Philadelphia Eagles, but a knee injury cut it all short. That's when he decided to try his hand at coaching. eventually becoming the youngest head coach in professional football history at the age of 33. In 1977, he led the Oakland Raiders to a Super Bowl victory and is still the franchise's all-time wins leader. Madden was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his coaching career in 2006.
Boom! Tough acting, acting.
Madden was a television advertiser's dream, becoming the pitch man for numerous brands.
Let me tell you, Ace is a place for me.
In 1988, Madden entered the video game world, lending his voice and name to what's now called Madden NFL.
You know, anything that goes that far, that fast, ought to have dinner and an in-flight movie.
His video game is still the most popular football video game ever, selling more than 100 million copies worldwide. Whether it was his video game, his broadcasting career, or as a Hall of Fame coach, his passion for the game is what will always be remembered.
Some of us think maybe we will be immortal, that we'll live forever, but when you really think about it, we're not going to be. But I say this, through this bust, with these guys, in that hall, we will be forever.
This year, Border Patrol agents have dealt with unprecedented levels of illegal border crossers. A former agent tells us this is partly why he retired after 24 years of service. He says the vaccine mandate was another sticking point. NTD's Miguel Moreno has the interview.
Bill Jackson from El Paso, Texas, worked for Customs and Border Protection for 24 years. This month, he retired, a decision Jackson says he and his family discussed early this year. But he tells me that this year's record surge of illegal border crossers and President Biden's vaccine mandate reinforced his will to retire.
And just the fact of having a vaccine mandate on top of all the stress of doing this job and the illegal surge has complicated our lives and our abilities to go out there and do our job effectively, knowing that there is so much going on, and to process that with our families, it creates quite the perfect storm.
In October, some lawmakers had warned Homeland Security that Border Patrol agents may either quit or retire in response to the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. That requirement went into effect about a month later on November 22nd, but it's uncertain how many agents have either called it quits or retired on account of the mandate. Jackson says he won't get the COVID-19 vaccine for religious reasons. His wife, Irene Armendariz Jackson, is running for Congress as a Republican.
And I think the vaccine mandate was the nail in the coffin for us to be able to say, no, we will not tolerate it. The government, the executive branch, was never intended to have these kinds of powers.
Do you have a message for Border Patrol agents who may be thinking of quitting or retiring early due to the mandate or other issues at the border?
Absolutely. As a fellow agent, retired agent, and as a chaplain, which I was a chaplain almost as long as I've been an agent, you're not alone. America still values the safety of our country. It still values and reaps the benefit of your protection. And know that there are people fighting for your rights, your God-given rights, inalienable, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Customs and Border Protection tells me that as of November 30th, 98% of their employees have complied with the vaccine policy. 87% were fully vaccinated, and 11% requested what the agency calls reasonable accommodations. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The jury in British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell's sex abuse trial is resuming deliberations today. Yesterday, the judge in the case warned of an increasing risk of a mistrial because of the CCP virus. U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan told lawyers a positive COVID-19 case among jurors would put trial completion at risk. She cited rising cases of the Omicron variant in New York City. 60-year-old Maxwell is accused of recruiting and grooming 4 teenage girls to have sexual encounters with late financier Jeffrey Epstein. The alleged incidents happened between 1994 and 2004. The judge told jurors they should plan to meet every day this week until they reach a verdict. Jurors were initially scheduled to have Thursday and Friday off for the New Year's holiday. The judge also floated the idea of holding deliberations on weekends if necessary. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of sex trafficking and other crimes. Her attorneys argue she is being scapegoated for Epstein's behavior since he is no longer alive. Police have arrested the driver suspected in a hit-and-run in South Florida that killed 2 kids and injured 4 others. 27-year-old Sean Charles Greer faces multiple charges, including leaving the scene of an accident involving death. Police say he confessed to his involvement in the crash just north of Fort Lauderdale. According to a preliminary investigation, the suspect passed a bus and veered off the road onto a sidewalk, hitting multiple children. The driver then sped up and fled the area. 2 kids, ages 5 and 6, were pronounced dead at the scene. The 4 injured children range in age from 2 to 10. Some of the injuries are critical. An eyewitness video shows a time-lapse of snow amassing at a Lake Tahoe backyard throughout December. The area set a December snowfall record. UC Berkeley's Central Sierra Snow Lab reported yesterday a total December snowfall of over 202 inches. This breaks the 1970 record of 179 inches, and there are still 3 days left in the month. Tahoe's major motorways were closed due to snow and downed trees. The eyewitness told Reuters that he and his neighbors spent 2 days clearing their driveways of snow. However, in spite of the difficulties in clearing the pileup, he maintains that his community still loves the snow. He even took to skiing down a freshly snow-covered road. Coming up during the season of Christmas returns the product shortages. How are sellers optimizing their processes to make sure returns get back on the shelves as soon as possible? Find out more after the break.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
A new year and a new crust. Papa John's is introducing another crust option to the menu. It's a New York-styled pizza. The new pie, popular in the Big Apple, is made of 8 oversized slices, great for folding. You can get a taste of the New York-style crust now through March of 2022. It's $13 for a one-topping 16-inch pie. For some, the new year can't get here fast enough, and yesterday was the day to leave behind unpleasant memories from 2021. People gather at Times Square every December 28th to celebrate the annual Good Riddance Day. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
Welcome 2022. and goodbye to 2021 and everything you want to forget about it.
COVID to go away.
The annual Good Riddance Day celebration at Times Square allows people to write down the past year's bad memories on slips of paper or bring their own stack.
And burn Julian's financial headaches from 2021.
Which are then burned to wipe the slate clean.
Good riddance, get rid of it, clear the slate, and walk into 2022 with a completely clean slate to have positive new experiences.
COVID, loneliness, or your ex-boyfriend. These are only some of the things that people want to say good riddance to in 2021.
What do you want to get rid of?
Bad people. COVID and all the bad stuff that's happened in 2021.
So the Real Housewives of Iceland.
And to some people, it means a lot.
This event, what does this event mean symbolically to you?
Catharsis!
Susan Jacks, a performer, says she, like every actor in the city, wishes next year they can finally get rid of taping themselves without an audience.
You sing, you dance, you act in front of them. Now, you play dress up in your bedroom and scream at your iPhone.
And as the city is getting ready for the big events coming up in just a few days, the host of Times Square New Year's Eve says hope is what they're trying to bring.
Everyone is looking forward to the future because I feel like there's a lot of hope in 2022 that people are ready for.
Iris Tao, NTD News.
'Tis the season of Christmas returns, supply chain challenges, and product shortages. How are sellers optimizing their processes to make sure returned products get back on the shelves as soon as possible? NTD's Colin Fredrickson has the details.
Don't feel too bad about returning Christmas presents this year. Retailers are banking on returns to offset supply chain issues.
We estimate that about 50% of returns can go back on the shelf as new goods.
Retailers like Walmart are investing in automation and new warehouse systems to shorten the return process. And American Eagle has focused on streamlining returns since last year. For example, returning its leggings to shelves now takes the chain 6 days or less, compared to 14 days before. And it costs half as much. Although efficient returns help the supply chain issues a lot, the executive director of the Reverse Logistics Association, Tony Shirota, thinks it doesn't relieve the problem enough.
But when you're talking about millions of units being returned, they are not processed very quickly. The nightmare is that we're running out of warehouse space for returns. We're running out of trucks to move the returns.
Shirota says compared to in-store purchases, a product sold online is more likely to be returned.
The brick and mortar storefronts generally are below 10%, but in e-commerce, they're generally above 25%.
Because you can't try on products when you shop online, Shirota says e-commerce people tend to buy extra sizes and extra colors of the same item, worsening the inventory shortage.
Because you shipped 10 garments to this one consumer who's going to try them on in their home. When it comes back, it doesn't go back to the same warehouse, so it doesn't go back on the shelf as new very quickly. So that is an indirect impact to the supply chain shortages.
Shirota suggests in the long run, it's important to think about the circular economy and how we can reduce waste and reuse products. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
The digital technology that has revolutionized the TV and film industry is being put to work in the laboratory. To meet the growing demand in medical research, Nikon is introducing a new microscope camera. The new device, called the Nikon Digital Sight 10, can be used to speed diagnosis in the pathology lab. It can also be used in drug discovery research. The camera can capture high-resolution images in 6K and is compatible with many types of microscopes. Nikon says it can provide high-resolution color and black and white images. It also has infrared capabilities. Designers hope it will improve the quality of microscopic medical imaging and speed up discovery in the healthcare field. Hong Kong's press freedom takes another hit. This after more than 200 national security police raided the office of a local online media outlet. 7 people were arrested, prompting several rights groups to issue statements expressing concern. Police raided the offices of pro-democracy media outlet Stand News earlier today. It's the most prominent pro-democracy publication in Hong Kong after the now-defunct Apple Daily tabloid, which was targeted earlier this year. Stan News was shut down after its assets were frozen and senior staff arrested on alleged seditious publication offenses. The raid raises more questions about press freedom in the former British colony. Police seized nearly $8 million as well as computers, phones, and other journalistic materials. Among those arrested is interim editor Patrick Lam. Reports say pop singer Denise Ho, a former board member, was also arrested. The Hong Kong Journalists Association says it's deeply concerned about the arrests. China's pandemic policy is taking a turn, but this time it's mirroring the early days of the pandemic. Over 100 military personnel are now stationed in its Xi'an city, some of whom had deployed to a field hospital in Wuhan last year. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
The Chinese military is in Xi'an as the city continues to deal with a virus outbreak driven by the Delta variant. Apparently, 150 military medics from the Chinese Air Force were sent to local hospitals in Xi'an. That's according to Chinese state media on Tuesday. Many of them had experiences dealing with the initial outbreak in Wuhan. You'll probably remember that's the original epicenter of the pandemic. Xi'an reported over 170 new local cases on Tuesday, a jump from about 150 cases per day in the past 2 days. Local authorities in Xi'an have already tightened control measures to the strictest level in China. It was rarely seen since the initial outbreak in Wuhan. All residents are required to stay at home unless they go out for mass testing. Previously, one person from each household was allowed to go out to buy groceries every 2 days. But starting Monday, no one is allowed to go out even for groceries. Since locking down the city last week, authorities have placed nearly 30,000 people in hotel quarantine. On Tuesday, residents in Xi'an complained on Chinese social media Weibo. Many say they were running out of food at home. One user says, "Soon I'll be running out of food and there's nowhere to buy." Another user says, "My neighborhood management team does not care about our food supply. What should I do if I run out of stock at home? Guess I'll just starve to death?" 2021 had not been an easy year for foreign firms doing business in China. An increasingly challenging political environment in China is pushing some major Western companies to leave the country. James Zimmerman, an American lawyer based in Beijing, says that the Chinese market has become less and less palatable for Western companies. He explains that it's because of reputational risks of operating in an environment with extreme content censorship and tighter regulatory conditions. In October, Microsoft decided to shut down its LinkedIn service inside China. LinkedIn said it was due to a significantly more challenging operating environment and greater compliance requirements in China. This came after LinkedIn faced criticism for censoring posts of U.S. journalists inside China. Last month, Yahoo also pulled out of China because of the country's increasingly challenging business and legal environment. It came after a new data law came into effect. The law restricts companies from transporting Chinese data out of the country. Major American video game maker Epic Games also gave up the Chinese market. It was after Beijing banned kids from playing video games on school nights. China's ability to collect data on global cargo flows is worrying the U.S. The Wall Street Journal reports that Beijing's worldwide logistics network would even track shipments from ports far from China. Cargo industry officials worry that the information collected may give Beijing the insight and even the power to influence world commerce. Shipping data now has become a precious commodity. Digital network logging is a star in China's cargo data system. The network calls itself a one-stop logistics information service platform. The platform builds its collections from a mix of public databases. It also relies on input from over 450,000 users in China and across the world. Industry officials say that Beijing could gain advantages by processing data crossing logging. Logging is officially called the National Public Information Platform for Transportation and Logistics. It was developed since 2007 under the power of China's Transportation Ministry. Michael Vessel, a member of the U.S. Congress's U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, commented on the issue. He says logging could be a treasure trove of intelligence of national security and economic interest. The company website says it serves China's Belt and Road Initiative and has become a window for Beijing to share international logistics information. The U.S. Defense Department sends military equipment through global commercial ports. An official said, without commenting on logging, that China is also eyeing U.S. military logistics through Belt and Road. It's not clear how much data logging collects worldwide or who has access to the data. An industry expert commented that logging is operated by the Chinese regime and that, quote, it's difficult for free enterprises to compete with an incorporated nation.
Just ahead, one Michelin star chef expands his restaurant into a laboratory that pushes customers out of their comfort zones. Over a 20-course menu, customers encounter the unexpected. And an oyster farmer in southern France comes up with a clever idea to help police track down oyster thieves. Other oyster farmers adopt the effective method. More on that in just a moment.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Travel for K Original, Jola Namdo. The moment your 5 senses awaken, K Culture. The taste of Jola Namdo leads to the world, K Food. An exhilarating memory that I will cherish. There's no end to happiness, K Life. A great place to truly enjoy traveling, K Travel, Jola Namdo.
Greek divers have discovered the wreckage of an Italian submarine 80 years after it was sunk by the Allied forces in the Aegean Sea during World War II. The Unita, which had sailed from the Greek island of Leros with 48 sailors on board, sank on July 5, 1941, after it was hit by torpedoes fired by a British submarine. She was discovered last month by one of Greece's best-known divers and his team using a remotely operated underwater vehicle. The team had already located and identified 3 other submarines. Unita's identity was verified using records from Italy's Naval History Office. After thieves stole more than 3 tons of oysters from a French shellfish farmer, he came up with a clever solution, planting secret notes inside oyster shells to help police track down the thieves. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Since Christophe Guinaud put the method in place in 2016 on his farm sites in southern France, he says there have been no new oyster thefts on his farm.
It has had a dissuasive effect, and I am more interested in a dissuasive approach than a repressive one. The system is efficient on every level. I think that over the past 5 to 6 years, there has been no new oyster thefts and no complaint filed.
Guinaud farms oysters in a coastal lagoon near France's border with Spain. Thieves take a boat out to the cages and steal them from the water. So Guinaud takes an empty oyster shell, inserts a tiny rolled up note, glues the shell back together, and drops it into the cage.
I put traps in a net or 2 in each farm site. Otherwise, it will be too much work to search through nets for a rigged oyster. So there's 2 nets containing traps per site. And I'm the only one who knows where I put them, of course.
The note informs whoever opens the oyster shell that they have won their own weight in oysters. Anyone claiming their prize will be asked where they bought the oysters. If it was not from somewhere that can know supplies, he will know the oysters were stolen.
Thanks to the mandatory tracking of our shellfish, I will be able to find that rude person, whether he or she is a sea professional or not, who will have sold my oysters to a wholesaler, who will have then sold them to a fishmonger.
He can then alert the police to track down the thieves. Fellow producers from the area followed his example. Oyster thefts in the area have gone down from 19 incidents reported in the region in 2017 to 9 in 2018, 6 in 2019, and none in 2020, according to French Interior Ministry figures. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Since its founding in 1998, one Michelin star chef's restaurant has grown to become a laboratory that pushes customers out of their comfort zones. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Chef Outbreaks has shaken up the restaurant world and garnered a steady stream of awards, and also criticism for his treatment and flavor, but he emphasizes the need to take risks.
If the kitchen is a space where there are only certainties and people are going to eat what they recognize, people are going to ask for what they know they will find. We introduce people to new lands and encourage them to explore.
Over a 20-course menu, customers encounter unexpected flavors, ingredients, and sensations. They are invited to play with the food between their fingers. Here, Chef Outbreaks explains the difference between two mousses.
This is very strange because a dish that is puzzling due to its apparent simplicity is really a mixture of two mousses. A Lys mousse from Chateau de Kim, which is one of the most renowned Sauterne wines in the world, and a foie gras mousse. It's a classic combination in a novel format. It is as easy as taking it between your hands and enjoying it. Good, huh?
Outbreaks is also formulating the perfect meal for passengers who will sail through space in commercial spaceships.
Before, we used to send the military up into space, children capable of following any rule that was set for them. But we are talking about another type of tourism now, another type of profile of people who are going to travel up into space, people who will not want to do without anything, and who will want to eat well. At that precise moment in time, the gastronomy factor will be present.
In a future imagined by Outbreaks, sustainability is crucial, as is serving healthy food. By resurrecting ancient preparation techniques such as fermentation, he aims to strike a balance. But his creative team strives to escape the prescriptive elements of artificial intelligence and avoid the safe option of giving customers a familiar, comfortable experience. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
For the animals at one German zoo, Christmas dinner isn't over. For now, they're still feasting on unused and delicious Christmas trees. A spokeswoman from the Berlin Zoo called it a post-Christmas tradition to feed animals with the young, undecorated trees. The zoo's director says the animals are thrilled to enjoy the new treat. He described the trees as chocolate for animals, as they contain essential oils and fresh needles. Elephants, in particular, like to play with the pines as toys. Their carers say they love the smell of the resin and shape of the spikes, since they present a different texture than normal food. And on top of that, the needles tickle their tongues. As for how the zoo gets a hold of the holiday trees, special dealers deliver unsold specimens 2 or 3 days post-Christmas. But zoo officials also warned visitors not to donate their own Christmas trees, noting they only accept deliveries from regular suppliers. Coming up, this year has proven one giant leap for mankind's journey into space. But what new goals are on the horizon for 2022? We look at what's coming for future missions to the stars once the globe rings in the new year. Learn more after the break here on NTD News. Blackjack beat Law Connect and SHK Scallywag to claim line honors in the Sydney Hobart yacht race this morning. That's after battling some of the toughest conditions in the event's recent history. The three 100-footers were involved in an intense tussle for the lead before SHK Scallywag encountered problems, leaving Blackjack and Law Connect to fight it out for victory. Blackjack skipped by Mark Bradford skippered by Mark Bradford, took a 6 nautical mile lead over Law Connect and crossed the finish line in Hobart at 1:37 a.m. local time. Weather wreaked havoc throughout the 628 nautical mile course, and heavy winds of up to 30 knots forced more than a third of the 88 entrants to retire from the race, which was among the slowest in the competition's history. Last year's edition of the race was canceled due to COVID-19. Alexander Zverev and Stefanos Tsitsipas arrive in Sydney, Australia ahead of the ATP Cup competition. Big changes to the tournament include the withdrawal of the world's #1 men's player. Zverev's 5-man Germany team will be up against Canada, Great Britain, and the United States in Group C. Tsitsipas also has a tough opener playing for Greece in their first match in Group D against Poland on Saturday. He'll face Hubert Hurkacz. The tournament was hit by the withdrawal of world #1 Novak Djokovic from the Serbia team. And Austria was replaced by France in Group B after Dominic Thiem and Denis Novak both pulled out of the Austrian squad. In Melbourne, women's world #1 Ash Barty of Australia and 2021 Australian Open champion Naomi Osaka of Japan were out of the practice courts. Barty opens her 2022 season at the WTA Adelaide International starting on Monday, while Osaka remains in Melbourne for the Melbourne Somerset, also starting Monday. 2021 proved a tremendous year for space exploration, zero-gravity research, and new milestones. But which of its many projects will the year be remembered for? Let's rewind for a look at the most outrageous giant leaps mankind made this year.
Back in January, a team of researchers simulated life on the moon, spending 2 weeks in isolation at a base in Poland. The study examined pandemic quarantines and social restrictions and their effects on human health. The month also took gourmet research to new heights. Wine that spent a year in space came back to Earth, tasting, smelling, and looking different. 12 bottles of an exclusive vintage were sent to the International Space Station, along with hundreds of grapevines. A month later, the European Space Agency put up a Help Wanted sign, its first in 11 years. The month of April celebrated a milestone anniversary, 60 years since Air Force pilot Yuri Gagarin became the first human being in space. He took the Soviet Union's own giant leap for mankind and spurred the U.S. to race for the moon. April also saw a loss for the space community, the death of Apollo 11 astronaut Michael Collins. His family said he died from cancer at age 90. Collins was part of the 3-man crew that ended the space race with Russia and fulfilled President John F. Kennedy's challenge to reach the moon by the end of the 1960s. Collins never set foot on the lunar surface like his crewmates Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong.
I was always asked, wasn't I the loneliest person in the whole lonely history of the whole lonely solar system when I was by myself in that lonely orbit? And the answer was no.
In May, the European Space Agency presented Project Moonlight. The effort would send satellites in orbit around the moon and help the ESA offer communications and navigation services to any country planning lunar exploration missions.
It will help us pave the way for mission to Mars and beyond. And it will allow us more sustainable space exploration in the future.
1 month later, China's first crewed mission in 5 years took to the stars. The Shenzhou 12 spaceship sent a 3-man crew to its new space station. The UAE voiced its extraplanetary ambitions in July. Selected candidates to become Emirati astronauts included the Arab world's first female astronaut.
The feeling of achieving your dreams is very gratifying, and I also feel a huge commitment and a sense of how important this is for the UAE.
At the same time, billionaire Richard Branson hurtled into space aboard his own winged rocket ship. His Virgin Galactic Space Tourism Company reached an altitude of 53.5 miles over the New Mexico desert, high enough for weightlessness and witnessing the curvature of the Earth.
To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
The launch beat Branson's far richer rival, Jeff Bezos, by just 9 days. That's when Bezos blasted into space on his rocket company's first manned flight. Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket soared on the 52nd anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing.
We're going to build a road to space so that
our kids and their kids can build the future. And we need to do that. We need to do that to solve the problems here on Earth.
September saw the Barbie world reach the stars during a zero-gravity flight. Toy maker Mattel asked the European Space Agency to take its Samantha Cristoforetti astronaut doll up on a parabolic flight to mark World Space Week. The mission set to inspire young girls to take up careers in the space industry.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yes, that's exactly what we want, right? Like, I mean, look at Legos. How many girls get to play with dolls that are astronauts? How inspirational is that?
A Russian film crew rocked into space in October to make the world's first movie in orbit. They spent 12 days filming scenes for a feature-length production. Their journey closely followed that of another film icon, Star Trek's Captain Kirk, played by 90-year-old actor William Shatner. Boldly went where no man has gone before, reaching the final frontier aboard a ship built by Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin company.
What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened.
And closing out the year, NASA selected 10 new astronauts in December. The space agency introduced the 6 men and 4 women during a ceremony in Houston. And on top of that, Japanese billionaire Yusaka Maezawa and his producer Yozo Hirano boarded the International Space Station. It's the first visit by self-paying space tourists to the orbiting outpost since 2009, while the trip's price tag hasn't been disclosed.
The clock is ticking. December 29th is officially TikTok Day. No, we're not talking about the social media app. TikTok Day serves as a reminder to complete whatever you need to do before the year ends. Some know it as a day to take a closer look at personal goals and reflect on them. Did you finish reading that book? Lose those extra pounds? Book your travel for 2022? Maybe your goals are grander or simpler. Whatever they are, TikTok. And for those that have the urge to share their last-minute to-do lists and revelations, don't forget to use hashtag TikTok Day to post on social media. Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.